Hello everyone. Today we are going to embark on a life or death journey that many people over 60 don't realize they are embarking on every day. Did you know, just by sitting or sitting for too long, you can't move for a few minutes? No crash, no warning, just a quiet session, and then a fight to the finish. Stay until the end to understand why thousands of seniors are paralyzed, have dementia, and even die, all because of something seemingly harmless, sitting for too long. This video is not to tease you, it is to save you, and sometimes a timely piece of information can save a life. Let's get started.
When I first read the report, I felt a chill run down my spine. A woman named Margaret, 72 years old, retired librarian, always well put together, the kind who brings her own chamomile tea bags to doctor's visits, had just suffered a stroke. But the numbers didn't make sense. Her cholesterol normal, blood pressure a little high but controlled, no smoking, no diabetes, no family history of stroke. So why? I sat across from her in the hospital room, watching her eyes search for words her brain no longer summoned. She tried to say daughter, and it came out like wind through a broken flute. I had seen many strokes in my career, but something about Margaret haunted me. Maybe because she reminded me of my own mother. Maybe because as her neurologist spoke to her family, I noticed her chart, and one small line hidden under the blood work panel caught my eye. Blood type A positive. Have you ever thought about your blood type, sir? Or you, ma'am? You might know it from your ID card, or maybe from a time you donated blood years ago. But let me ask you, have you ever thought about what it really means? What if I told you that your blood type might be trying to warn you? Every day, over 100 older adults in this country are hospitalized for strokes. Most of them had no idea it was coming. Some even thought they were healthy. Many never walk or speak the same way again. And yet new research, surprising, controversial, and eye-opening, suggests that something as quiet and unchangeable as your blood type could be quietly shaping your risk. Researchers at the University of Maryland and Harvard Medical School collaborated on a study published just a few years ago. What they found startled even seasoned professionals like me. People with blood type A had a significantly higher risk of early-onset ischemic stroke than those with blood type O. That means that before the age of 60, individuals with type A blood were more likely to experience a clot-related stroke. And the link wasn't minor, it was measurable. This wasn't just another media headline. It came straight from the careful review of data from nearly 17,000 people. But what about people in their 60s, 70s, 80s, people like you? That's where the story deepens. Another group of scientists working with the National Institutes of Health looked at older populations and noticed something else. While the exact level of increased risk shifts with age, the underlying mechanism doesn't go away. That mechanism, in simple terms, is how your blood clots. People with type A and AB tend to have slightly higher levels of a protein called von Willebrand factor. Don't worry about the name, what you need to know is that this protein makes your blood more likely to stick together, especially when your vessels are inflamed or narrowed with age. That stickiness is helpful when you cut yourself, but inside the brain, it can be devastating. You might be thinking, well, I can't change my blood type. And you're right. But you can understand it. You can adjust the environment in which that blood flows. Because here's the truth, your blood type doesn't write your destiny. It whispers a warning, and it's up to you to listen. Margaret didn't know. She had no way of knowing that her blood was slightly more prone to clumping in certain conditions. She didn't know that the afternoon she felt a tingling in her arm and ignored it. Her brain was beginning to suffer. She thought she was just tired. But her neurons were already starving for oxygen. By the time the ambulance came, part of her ability to form words was gone. And yet it didn't have to be this way. I believe deeply that if she'd been aware of her personal stroke risk, not just general health tips, but something tailored to her blood, she might have taken quicker action when the symptoms appeared. She might have worked more closely with her doctor to reduce inflammation and platelet activity, especially as she aged. I believe that knowing the risk is not a curse. It's a tool, one that helps you fight smarter. So I ask you, when was the last time you really checked in with your own body? Not just your weight or your sugar, but the very blood moving inside you. Have you ever felt a moment of dizziness and brushed it off? Have your hands ever tingled when you woke up and you blamed the way you slept? Sometimes your body whispers before it screams, and that whisper could be the most important message you ever hear. If this resonates with you, or if you've ever worried about stroke or seen a friend go through it, type yes in the comments. If not, type 0. And make sure you subscribe and tap the notification bell, because the next parts of this series will show you exactly what symptoms to watch for what real-life stories reveal about prevention and what steps you can take starting tonight. Your health is not about perfection, it's about connection. Between your awareness and your action. There was a man I once knew, a retired railway engineer named Frank. He was 74, sharp-witted, a little stubborn like many gentlemen his age, and proudly self-reliant. Frank never liked asking for help, said he was too busy enjoying retirement to fuss over little things. But one morning his wife told me he woke up slower than usual. His smile was crooked, and he kept asking the same question over and over, forgetting he'd just asked it. That day, Frank had a stroke. Now, you might be thinking I would know if something like that were about to happen. But would you? Let me ask you this gently. When was the last time you really paused to notice how your body feels when you first wake up? That moment between sleep and activity. Does your balance feel steady? Does your speech flow easily? Or do you brush off the signs and tell yourself, I'm just getting older? Frank had blood type AB. And while the exact science is still evolving, many studies have suggested that people with blood type AB, not just A, may have an even higher risk of cognitive impairment after a stroke. Some researchers at the University of Vermont explored this and found a significant link between blood type AB and reduced memory reasoning and language processing post-stroke. That means when a stroke hits the mind of an AB person harder. Why it ties back to clotting again. The more likely your blood is to form clots, the more fragile your brain becomes when oxygen is blocked, even for a moment. But here's the part that's easy to forget. Stroke symptoms aren't always as dramatic as movies make them out to be. You may not collapse. You may not lose control of your limbs in an instant. Sometimes the signs are far quieter, like when Frank's wife noticed he was slurring his words, or when he tried to put on a t-shirt but couldn't figure out where the sleeves went. If you're listening to this and your blood type is AB or AB, don't let fear take over. Let awareness take the wheel. One of the clearest early warning signs is a sudden numbness or weakness, especially on one side of the body. You may feel it in your face, your arm, or your leg. If you smile and one side doesn't follow, that's a warning. If your speech feels heavy or you struggle to find words, don't delay. Even if it goes away in a few minutes, it could be what we call a mini stroke, or TIA, and it's often a prelude to a larger one. I once read an article from the Cleveland Clinic that said about 1 in 3 people who experience a TIA will have a major stroke later, and most of those strokes happen within the first 48 hours. Think about that. You get a small preview, and if you ignore it, the real damage comes next. There's also something else I want you to reflect on. If you're noticing that your thinking feels foggier, or your balance is slightly worse than last year, don't chalk it up to just aging. Yes, aging changes things, but the body doesn't fail overnight. It whispers first. And if you have one of the higher risk blood types, that whisper can mean a narrowing in your brain's tiny vessels, reducing blood flow, and creating microscopic damage long before a stroke ever occurs. I remember treating a woman named Delilah, 69 years old, blood type B. She came in because she was bumping into walls. She said she was just clumsy. Her family thought maybe it was poor vision, but her brain scan told a different story. She had experienced 3 silent strokes. No dramatic symptoms, no warning, just tiny disruptions in her brain circulation enough to affect her coordination, her memory, even her confidence. Sir, madam, you are not just here to survive. You're here to thrive. I say this not to frighten you, but to empower you. Because there are things you can do starting with being honest about your symptoms. Do not ignore a sudden drop in vision, a strange taste in your mouth, a stiff neck with dizziness, or an unexplained fall. All of these may be small strokes in disguise, and if you have a higher risk blood type, these signs demand even more attention. There's a phrase I like to use with my older patients. You know your body better than anyone. If something feels off, it is off. You don't need to be a doctor to notice that your handwriting is shakier or that your thoughts are harder to organize. You just need to trust yourself. And please don't wait until it's too late to speak up. Frank didn't think much of his tiredness that morning. He thought a glass of orange juice and a short nap would fix everything. It didn't. That night he was in the hospital, unable to move his left arm. I don't share these stories to scare you. I share them because they're real, and I don't want you to become someone else's sad memory. If you're nodding quietly right now, or if someone you love has gone through something like this, share your story in the comments. Your words may save someone else's life. And if you haven't yet clicked subscribe, I'll continue to walk beside you part by part so you'll never face this journey alone. I want to tell you about Helen. She was 76, bright-eyed, full of stories from her days as a high school music teacher. You would have loved her, always humming a tune under her breath, always dressed like she was ready to go to church even on a Tuesday. When she came to my clinic, she wasn't there for anything urgent. She just wanted to get a little peace of mind, she said. Her neighbor had just had a stroke, and it shook her. We're the same age, she told me, her voice soft, but I don't feel ready to go. So I looked over her chart. Blood type A. Slightly elevated inflammatory markers. Her cholesterol was borderline. Nothing alarming, but still enough to raise a flag. We sat together and talked. I told her something that I want to share with you right now, something I believe with my whole heart. Your numbers don't define your fate. Your awareness does. There's been more than one study, some from the NIH, some from research groups in Europe, that show how inflammation, blood stickiness, and clot formation behave differently depending on blood type. In blood types A and AB, for instance, researchers noticed consistently higher levels of something called factor 18. Again, don't worry about the name. What matters is this: it's a clotting agent, and when it's too high, it raises your stroke risk. Not overnight, not always dramatically, but steadily, like water dripping in the same spot over time. Scientists in Denmark tracked over 1.5 million people, yes million, and they found that those with non-O blood types were more likely to develop blood clots in both veins and arteries. That's not just about heart attacks or strokes. It's also about small vessel disease, which can affect your memory, your ability to concentrate, and your balance. And when you're older, small shifts in circulation can lead to big consequences. But here's what made Helen different. She listened. She didn't panic. She didn't try to do everything at once. She asked, "What can I do today to make tomorrow a little safer?" That's the question I want you to ask yourself. Let me be clear, blood type is not a sentence. It's a lens. A way to understand how your body works. If you know your blood type makes you more likely to form clots, you can work with your doctor to reduce that risk. You can add more anti-inflammatory foods to your diet. You can move your body in gentle but consistent ways that help your blood flow like a healthy river instead of a clogged stream. You can monitor your blood pressure closely and treat it early, even if it's just a little bit high. Have you ever seen a stream with too many leaves in it? It starts off fine, but eventually the water slows. Debris builds up. Then one branch blocks the whole flow, and suddenly the stream overflows or floods where it shouldn't. That's how strokes happen in the brain, especially in older adults. It's not one dramatic event, it's a slow buildup that finally tips. I remember a case study I once read: an elderly man with blood type B who'd always been athletic, played tennis twice a week, sharp as a tack. But he never drank water. Didn't like the taste, he said. He came in with dehydration and confusion. His blood had thickened, his circulation slowed, and he ended up with a clot that nearly blinded him. It took months of therapy to get his balance and vision back. So I ask you, do you hydrate enough, or do you wait until you're thirsty? Do you stretch your legs after sitting for long hours? Do you track how you feel after a meal, especially heavy ones? These small, almost invisible habits either support or sabotage your blood flow. One of the things Helen started doing was taking slow evening walks, just 15 minutes around her neighborhood. Not for exercise, she said, for circulation. And it helped. Not only did her blood pressure go down, but her digestion improved, her sleep got better, and she felt lighter in the mind. That's how she described it: lighter. Sometimes small movement can lift years of weight off your system. Another man. Gerald, age 81, blood type A, started adding turmeric to his breakfast. Not because he liked the taste, but because he read it helped reduce inflammation. He mixed it into his eggs. Just that small act made him feel like he had control over his health again. And science backs that up. Turmeric contains curcumin, a natural compound that has been shown to reduce clot-forming tendencies in the bloodstream. Not a cure, but a tool. Just like movement, just like awareness. You don't need to make huge changes overnight, but you do need to take the first step. Maybe that means checking your blood pressure today. Maybe it means calling your doctor to ask about your stroke risk. Maybe it just means going outside for 5 minutes, letting the sun touch your skin, and remembering that your body is not your enemy, it's your partner. I'll be honest, there's no blood type that's perfect. Even type O, which carries the lowest clotting risk, has its own challenges like higher risks of ulcers and bleeding issues. But understanding your type gives you insight, and insight gives you power. So instead of asking, "Am I safe?" ask, "Am I prepared?" If this part of the message speaks to you right, I'm listening in the comments. Your journey matters not just to you, but to everyone who cares about you. Subscribe if you haven't already, and turn on notifications. Because the steps you take today can shape your entire future, and I'll be right here with you guiding the way. I still remember the look on Thomas's face when he first came into my office. He was 68, a retired postman, strong hands, sun-kissed skin from years walking the neighborhoods. But there was a fear in his eyes that told me more than his words ever could. He said, "Doc, I'm scared of ending up like my brother." One day he was fine, and the next he was gone. His brother had passed away from a massive stroke at age 66. Thomas said they were built the same, and he wanted to know what he could do to avoid the same fate. We went through his health history together. His numbers were decent, not perfect, but not dangerous either. And then I asked, "What's your blood type, Thomas?" He shrugged. "Oh, I think," he said. We double-checked to be sure. It turned out he was type A. His shoulders sank just a little. "So I'm at risk?" he asked. And I said the same thing I'll tell you right now. Yes, your blood type might increase your risk, but you're not helpless. In fact, this might be the most powerful moment of your life because you're choosing to pay attention before it's too late. From that moment on, Thomas became intentional. And it made a difference not just in his labs or his blood pressure, but in how he carried himself. That's something I want you to feel too. Because you, sir or madam, still have time. Time to build habits that support your blood vessels, that soften the internal pressures mounting with age, and that can protect your brain from future harm. So let me walk you through some of the changes Thomas made because they're simple and deeply effective. First, he changed his mornings. He stopped skipping breakfast. Instead, he started with oatmeal sprinkled with flaxseed and a handful of walnuts. Not because it was trendy, but because omega-3s from walnuts help thin the blood naturally, and flaxseed supports healthy cholesterol. These aren't gimmicks, they're supported by decades of research. The American Heart Association has long recommended plant-based omega-3s for people over 60. He also swapped out bacon and sausages foods high in saturated fats that can stiffen blood vessels and chose poached eggs or grilled vegetables instead. Within weeks, his morning energy increased. He wasn't sluggish by 10 a.m. anymore. "I feel clear," he said, like someone opened a window in my head. Then came hydration. Thomas admitted, like many older adults, that he never felt thirsty. He thought he didn't need as much water as younger folks. But as we age, our sense of thirst weakens even when our body is dehydrated, and thicker blood caused by dehydration raises stroke risk. So he set reminders on his phone to sip water throughout the day. Not soda, not coffee, just clean filtered water. That alone reduced his headaches and improved his sleep. Thomas also began walking after dinner, not fast, just steady. 20 minutes around his block with his dog. And he didn't miss a day rain or shine. "It's not for exercise," he said. "It's for my brain." And he was right. Studies have shown that light to moderate walking after meals improves glucose control, lowers post-meal blood pressure spikes, and boosts circulation. That circulation is what keeps tiny vessels in the brain, healthy vessels that are often the first to get damaged in elderly individuals with type A or AB blood. And here's something you may not expect. He changed how he rested. No more falling asleep to the TV, no more staying up late scrolling through his phone. He created a calming bedtime routine, herbal tea, soft music, and stretching his legs for 5 minutes. Why? Because poor sleep increases blood pressure and stress hormones, and those in turn damage blood vessels. For someone with a clot-prone blood type, that's an added danger. But with good sleep hygiene, those risks shrink. I once read a report from the Mayo Clinic that said people over 65 who sleep less than 6 hours per night are more likely to suffer cardiovascular events, especially strokes. But the opposite is also true. Those who sleep well protect their arteries. Sleep is not just rest, it's repair. And you, dear listener, deserve that repair every night. Let me add one last point. Thomas also started keeping a little journal. Nothing fancy. Just a few lines each day about how he felt physically and emotionally. When he felt dizzy, he noted it. When he forgot something, he wrote it down. That journal became a powerful tool. It helped both him and me notice patterns: what foods made him feel foggy, what days his balance felt off, what habits made him feel strong. That self-awareness is what saved him. And I encourage you to try the same. You don't need to write essays. Just write what you notice. If your left foot drags slightly, if your handwriting is shakier, if you're having more emotional ups and downs. These aren't small things. They're messages from your body. And especially for those of you with blood type AB or AB, they're warnings worth honoring. Thomas came in 6 months after we first spoke, smiling and proud. He said, "My brother didn't get this chance. I did. And I'm going to make it count." And I looked at his blood pressure, his balance, his energy, and I said, "You already have. You too have that chance." If any of these habits feel doable for you, I want you to write, "I'm ready" in the comments. If you already practice some of these habits, share what works for you. Your story might guide someone else. And if you haven't yet subscribed, this is the time. Your health, your independence, your clarity. These are not just dreams, they are choices. And you're already making them. There's something quietly beautiful about the way the body responds when it feels safe, when it's cared for, supported, and gently tuned. I've seen it countless times in my career. Not always in dramatic recoveries, but in the way a 78-year-old woman walks into the clinic a little taller than before. In the way a man in his 80s speaks a little clearer, laughs a little more. You begin to see it in their skin, in their movement, in their gaze. That's not just good luck. That's the result of knowing your risk and treating your body like the old friend it's always been. If you're watching this and thinking, maybe I've wasted too much time, let me tell you this clearly, you haven't. You're listening. That's everything. And today I want to share not just stories or research, but a deeper truth that I've learned working with older adults like you, truths that aren't just about health, but about dignity and peace and strength. I had a patient named Gloria, blood type AB. She came to me after a stroke left her with difficulty writing. She used to send handwritten cards to her grandchildren every holiday. That was her thing. But now her hand shook. The letters came out uneven. And she wept not because of the health scare itself, but because she felt like she was losing part of herself. "What good is a healthy heart if I can't tell my babies I love them?" she said. We worked together for months. Speech therapy, hand exercises, even calming breathing rituals. And do you know what happened? Not only did her writing improve, but her confidence returned. One morning she brought in a little envelope. Inside was a card. Wobbly handwriting, yes, but clear. It said, "I love you. Always. Grandma." That right there was a victory far greater than any lab result. Your body isn't just tissue and muscle. It holds your memories, your identity, the way your grandchildren remember your voice, the way you walk into a room, the way you reach for someone you love. Stroke doesn't just threaten mobility, it can steal those connections, and that's why prevention is so much more than numbers and diets. It's about protecting who you are. So here's what I want you to take with you. Whether your blood type puts you at higher risk or not, there are simple nurturing actions that support your blood flow, your brain health, and your emotional well-being, and you deserve all three. Stretch your legs while you wait for the kettle to boil. That 5-minute stretch. It tells your veins to keep moving your blood to stay light. Reach for leafy greens like spinach and kale, not just for nutrients, but because they help relax blood vessels. Add a bit of garlic to your meals. It's not just for flavor. Garlic supports circulation and may help lower clotting tendencies. That's not just folklore, it's been explored by researchers around the world. including studies in Japan and Italy, where elderly diets are rich in garlic olive oil and greens and stroke rates are notably lower. And let's talk about community. Isolation increases inflammation in the body. That's not a metaphor. A recent study from the University of Chicago found that chronic loneliness in older adults increases blood pressure and clotting proteins. So make the phone call. Go to the gathering. Even a short chat with a neighbor can send a cascade of healing chemicals through your body. You're not meant to heal alone. Also, if you drink alcohol, keep it gentle. 1 glass of red wine can support blood flow, yes. But more than that, the risk outweighs the benefit, especially with type A or AB blood. And if you smoke, my friend, please hear me. Your blood is already more prone to clotting. Adding nicotine is like lighting a match in a dry forest. Quitting may be hard, but living without speech or movement is harder. If you need help, reach out. You're not weak for asking.
One more story before we close. There was a man named Harold. He was 83 blood type B, quiet private, the kind who listened more than he spoke. But after a minor stroke, he said something that stayed with me. I used to think life just fades, he said, but now I realize it hardens. The body stiffens when you stop tending to it, but if you water it, stretch it, breathe into it, it softens again.
Sir, madam, wherever you are in your health journey, whether you've had a scare or you're simply listening because you want to stay sharp, you are already softening that hardening. You are already choosing awareness. And that choice is life-giving. I encourage you to sit quietly after this video ends. Feel your pulse, feel your breath. That is life moving through you. And whether your blood is type A, B, AB, or O, it's carrying your story. Honor it, move with it, feed it, rest it, listen to it. If this message moved you, if it made you pause or breathe a little deeper, I invite you to leave a comment below. Let me know what spoke to you most, and please subscribe, not just for information, but for community. This channel is here to walk with you one breath, one meal, one decision at a time. Health after 60 isn't just about keeping your heart beating, it's about keeping your soul at peace.